the buzz. Pod hits like a glove. Feel that adrenaline.
Happy Saturday and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network, brought to you by Apogee Grafix, taking your vision to new heights. Go to apogeegrafix.com and use promo code PEAK1 for 10% off your order. I'm Ashton with Tony, ready to get you ready for your weekend. Thank you for listening however you're tuning in. What's going on, Tony?
What an exciting week for our family, for friends. First, my daughter, had a 9th birthday this week, so
Yeah.
that's exciting. Give Emmy a shout out, so when she stumbles across that show on YouTube, she'll see that.
That scares the shit out of me. My kids are going to stumble across half my
Emmy
stuff.
does
And this
sometimes.
I
And
don't
she
care.
tells me. Yeah, she tells me that.
This I don't care, but just in general, I've made
And
a
then,
lot of content.
Big day. Landon announced a couple weeks ago he was
Yeah.
committed to play college baseball, so he signed his national letter of intent on Wednesday, along with thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
other high school student athletes that are going to go off to college. So congratulations to all of those kids. And,
Yeah.
what,
The
what do we
2%
say?
that become college athletes.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So, and then, we wrapped up last week our final regular season week of Friday Night Football. Not covering playoffs as far as calling any live games, but we did cover a lot of them. And, the Saginaw that was undefeated that we covered,
Yeah.
they won their first round game. So congratulations to them.
Big comeback against Azle.
Unfortunately, Chisholm Trail fell to Aledo, which
Yeah.
anyone watching this, I'm sure, has heard of Aledo.
Yeah.
Knows who Aledo is. They've won 12 state championships. You knew that was going to be a tough feat anyways with first year coach Rickland Holmes. Surely he had to know that was going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, we talked to him preseason, and Aledo came up a lot. So, I mean, he knows, with similar players and coaching staff, he's very familiar with Aledo.
So exciting to watch. Anyone that doesn't keep up with Texas high school football, especially in the playoffs,
Yeah.
there's a lot of excitement that's going to start firing up. So try to catch that. I know we aren't going to be covering any live playoff stuff, but there's a lot of other media outlets that will be covering those. So, check those out week to week and keep up with them.
Yeah, for sure. And we're transitioning now. I would like to say we're getting in the thick of things with the Cowboys, but I mean, we kind of are, but not in the
For
way
the
we
wrong
were
reasons,
hoping.
right?
Yeah, we were not hoping. We would have to go and cover the Cowboys more for this reason, but we're going to talk Cowboys, obviously some college football, the Tyson and Paul fight. Again, thanks for listening. If you're watching on Peak One on YouTube or however you listen to podcasts, now we'll go ahead and talk Cowboys. Since the last time we were on here doing the leadoff, obviously a lot's changed. Not really in the outcomes of their games, but Dak is going to be out for the season now. I don't know that changes a whole lot. I mean, maybe I expected them to finish off with 6 or 7 wins. Now maybe they don't win another game with Cooper Rush. We saw how Cooper was. I know he did have a neck injury, so that may explain some of the throws he was making, but he just didn't look like the 4-1 Cooper Rush from a few years ago. And even then, he wasn't dominating.
All agree that it's Trey Lance time, and you just need to see the season's over. You can't save it. Let's see what we have, because if you don't know what you have, then how do you know how to utilize it?
I think the Cowboys
we need to put him out there and hope that he plays well, even if he can't win. And hopefully that's a little bit of trade bait. Help you move up in the draft, gain some of those draft picks, that 4th round that we gave up for Mingo. Like, let's see if we can't. Of course, I don't know that Trey Lance demands a 4th round. I don't know if you get much of anything.
It's complicated, though, because, I mean, you have to re-sign him to be able to trade him now at the end of the season. His contract's going to be up. I think the Cowboys know, and honestly, I think it's Jerry's ego.
They're just willing to let him walk. And
I don't know. I think it's Jerry's ego saying, if we put him out there and he continues to suck, it's just more ammo. It's just more like, hey, you were wrong for trading that 4th round pick for Trey Lance.
I mean, I don't know that there's that many people knocking him for that. Like, I don't think it was a bad move at the time, before you were going to extend. I mean, we didn't know that they were going to extend.
Yeah, because even if Trey
Dak
Lance goes
Prescott.
balls out, I mean, you're not re-signing him over Dak because you have Dak regardless. Dak is still the better
Yeah,
quarterback.
you got the $60 million a year guy now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care what Trey Lance does. He's not going to convince me that he's better overall than Dak Prescott. He's definitely not going to convince me to say, "Hey, screw it, find some." You can't even do anything. You can't just cut him and take your hit. And like, no, you might as well keep him. You're not going to trade him unless Dak just wants to be traded. He's got the no trade clause.
What's the move now? Dak's shown to be somewhat injury prone now. With said it's what 3 major injuries.
Well, it's 4, interesting. This is 2 times in his career the Cowboys started off bad with and then both times he gets a season-ending injury. Because you can go back to both years in hindsight, and
he doesn't get injured when they're competing.
Yeah, well, he does, but just not like season-ending. But like you go back, like okay, they, I guess when they drafted, it was Micah Parsons when they got the 11th pick. The first time Dak got hurt, he or maybe it was CeeDee Lamb. I don't know. They had the high pick, but you go back and like, well, of course they finished with 5 or 6 wins because Dak got hurt. And then you look at, well, no, because they were 1-4 when they, going into that Giants game. And then here you could look back 20 years from now and look like, oh yeah, Dak had 2 losing seasons. He got injured both times, which is what happened with Tony Romo. Tony Romo had, I think it was only 2 losing seasons, and both times he got hurt. Every other season was either 8-8 or winning.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Like, well, you're 3-6, 3-5 when you go down. So
it's an interesting dynamic to look at because
injury prone.
When you talk about the greats, the Tom Brady's, I mean, I would even say Aaron Rodgers. I know he had some injuries, but it's later on in his career. Peyton Manning, those guys just didn't get hurt. They were available for their teams. It's interesting, man. I guess you can say, well, if he runs more, he puts himself out there.
He really doesn't, though.
But
I mean,
right,
he runs
doesn't.
less and less than. Like, I think he should run more because we know he has some speed. He is sort of a mobile quarterback, but the plays you see him, it's because he waits to the last second to run. Whereas like Lamar Jackson, not that he has the Lamar Jackson gene or anything.
He'll hit a 3-step drop, hit 3 and just take off.
Yeah, and just take off, which I don't want it to be that quick because I honestly think Dak has a better arm than he is on the ground. But I think he should move around more because, in the pocket, I don't think Dak's near as good as, on the broken plays, just moving around. But I think he should not wait quite as long. But I don't know, after this injury, who knows? Even though he was in the pocket when he sustained this injury. But you can't do anything with Dak. You're just plunging forward. Dak's going to be your quarterback next year and for the foreseeable future, and that's okay. He's looking forward. I don't think this team's in as bad a position as we think they are, thinking about being successful in future years, unless you want to count like they have a terrible front office. Jerry Jones is still at the helm. Then I'll hear you out. But
you could definitely
have your
tell
quarterback.
Mike McCarthy has lost this.
He's
room.
done. Yeah.
There's a lot of individual talent here. You have a bad offensive line. That doesn't help.
Yeah. You hope that
they're not playing well.
Yeah, you hope
I don't know. I assume they can get better.
They're young, exactly.
I assume they can get better, but they're not playing well right
Exactly. You have 2 rookies who you kind of expected them not to play all that well. I mean, I think maybe next year you might improve just by the fact you have more experience. I hold out for that. I don't know. I'm not a scout. I'm not looking in like, oh yeah, that can be, there is some of that, but
We definitely
offensive line
don't have your number 1 running back.
Yeah.
You don't know who it is. I mean, it's a room full of
That's
guys.
something that has to be fixed in the offseason. You have to
honestly,
address it.
I know that Ashton
Genie.
kid, from
Boise State.
I know that's been kind of flirted around.
He just said he wanted to come. He's from Dallas. His family lives in Texas. He wants to play for the Cowboys.
While that would be a good pick, you also need to be looking at additional offensive linemen if they're there too. So that's a tough one.
Drafting a running back high is a we're ready to go for it move, because
Yeah.
you have to
that's the
expect
missing
you're not
piece.
going to sign him to a second contract. You have your
And then again, I mean, this
2-3 year
defense-
window.
This defense hasn't looked good. Do you need another run stopper? Like,
Yeah.
are we ready to mail it in on Mozzie Smith? Is he really making the impact we thought he would now? For such a high pick.
So I already know your answer on this, but just for the sake of argument, the Cowboys are 3-6. I didn't update this for Philly and Washington because they played Thursday night. 8-2 and 7-4, 8-3, 7-4. That's their record. Either way, Cowboys are 3-6. You have a choice to, if you want, try to go for the playoffs this year. If you think that's even, I don't think that's even possible, but especially more so this year when you have Philly. Like I said, they're 8-2 or 8-3. I think they're 8-2. You have Washington at 7-4. So that's the division's out. You're not making. That's not your path to the playoffs. Your path to the playoffs would have to be wild card. But then you look, Minnesota 7-2. We'll throw Washington back in there 7-4. Green Bay 6-3. San Fran 5-4, and you've already lost to them. So you're already a couple of games out. So there's no path to the playoffs for you. So Philly, you're 4 games back, essentially 5, because I guess you'll play them again, but you're going to play them in Philly. You already lost to them at home. So you just want the Cowboys to tank, see what you have with Trey Lance. I don't, like I said, it's complicated. You'd have to re-sign him to be able to trade him. But then if you get enough from him, maybe he just says,
you keep him as your backup.
You keep him as your backup. Or he says, I can go to free agency. You're not going to pay me. You already have $60 million, or his dex cap hits like $90 million next year or something. They'll redo that, whatever. But you're not going to invest. Like, what's the most? Let's say Trey Lance just balls out. You want to keep him as your backup. What's the most you could be comfortable giving him? Not knowing what the cap room is and all that. I know the cap's going. Knowing you have $60 million invested in
Where
Dak.
is what are we paying our backup now? Where's
$2 million?
$2 million,
something like that.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know that I'd be willing to spend more than that for a backup. I mean,
I think if he's good,
in the perfect world, he's not gonna play.
Yeah.
How often have we seen Cooper Rush touch the field?
I mean, at this point, if they don't show anything from Trey Lance, I'm like, let him walk and just leave Cooper. I mean, of course, let's see what Cooper Rush does the rest of the year. But it's like, in situations like this where he's trying to get you through the end of the year, you don't want Cooper Rush. But he can get you 2 or 3 games, depending on what chunk of the schedule you're going through. But if Cooper Rush goes and balls out, he's going to have, why wouldn't he just go to free agency and get, there's somebody willing to pay him $20 million if he has a good season.
So you're asking me if I tank or if I'm going for?
You're obviously not going for it, but like, what is their plan? Obviously,
let's look in the perfect situation. Cowboys catch fire. The Redskins fall off. Somehow this is a fluke and it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that to be true, but let's say it is. Let's say the Vikings, same thing. Their season goes to crap. Who else? The 49ers.
49ers, you're just a couple of games back.
Yeah, I mean, say everything happens. You squeeze in at like 9-7. Was it 10?
No, you have 3 wild card spots, and you have 4 teams ahead of you right now.
Yeah, so
or not ahead. Well, you have 4 teams that are there. I haven't looked at the rest of the schedule who you're tied with.
So
with Minnesota, Washington, Green Bay. Let's say San Fran goes off. Say Dallas gets to 8 wins. I mean, that would be 5-3. That'd be ridiculous if they can go 5-3. But you're expecting San Fran to.
If they do, and they find a way to sneak in the wild card spot, no one in this country or world or league or any really believes the Cowboys can make a run if they made the playoffs.
No, so
this team isn't built for it. The locker room isn't together. Like, I just don't see them finding that in the next 8 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't see it. There's no way that you would not just say, hey, let's see what we've got deeper in this roster.
Yeah.
Let's get some guys some reps. Let's be cautious with our stars. Let's hold them back a bit. Let's let them get some rest. Let's make sure they don't, hopefully not get any major injuries. Let's not try to wear on their body, because to try to make a playoff run, you're really going to be going after it. Everyone's going to be putting themselves through the ringer. Let's start focusing for next season. Let's go play competitive football, but let's start working the backups in. Let's mix some things up. Let's try some things. And quite honestly, I mean, I think the majority of this coaching staff is
gone. And there's a couple of things there. One, if I could just wave a magic wand and say somehow they'll make the playoffs, you're going to say no, because I can't promise anything in the playoffs. One, you just said they're not going to make a run. Two, if they somehow make the playoffs with Cooper Rush, unless Jerry Jones is just done with McCarthy, does that not give Jerry Jones a reason to give McCarthy an extension? I would consider giving McCarthy an extension if he can lead this Cowboys team to the playoffs. But three, they're not going to make a playoff run, or they're not going to make a run in the playoffs. So you make the playoffs, you automatically get thrown back to the pick 19. And there's no, like, Dak comes back, everybody's healthy. That you still sucked with all that. So you have to do so. I'm hoping. Of
course, at 19, that's probably a more realistic spot if you're going to take the Boise State running back.
Well, here's my thought. Let's say you get the 5th or the 6th pick. You just have your draft team, your draft experts figure out how low he can drop and trade back. You take that 5th pick, trade back to 15 or 16.
Get some of your picks back that you've gotten rid of for Trey Lance.
You trade from, let's say, 5 to 15. You're getting a second. I think you're getting that 15th pick and the second round. So you go ahead and get your second round pick. Let's say you draft Genty at 15. I'm not completely against it. You're not signing him to a second contract. You're probably getting 3 years out of him, because if he's really, really good, he's going to want an extension and hold out and do all that crap. So the one saying, oh, you get 5 years of control. Not necessarily. What if he holds out? We know what everyone in the world knows what happens to Jerry when you hold out. Zeke won, CD won, they always win. So let's say 3 years. So you're in your mind thinking, hey, we can figure this out in 3 years. You have the quarterback, I think, that if he's not the guy, like I've said for years, if you have the right, like with Zeke behind him, with the first 2 years of Zeke, he was a really good quarterback. When you have weapons for him, so now second round, I think you hold off on offense. I mean, we still have 8 games, 9 games, whatever to play. So let's see the offensive line. I think you can probably hold out on the offensive line till later rounds, because let's say inexperience. You just put that on the defense. You figure something out for the defense, and then you still have to sign Micah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors that go in here, but I don't know about tanking. Mike McCarthy is coaching for his next job. The players are playing for their next jobs. So you can say whatever you want, but nobody that plays on the field or coaches benefits from tanking. Mike McCarthy's not going to tank. He's not going to be the coach here. Why would he tank for a better
true way you
position?
Play it is you put in players that don't normally play for you.
But McCarthy's not going to do that.
You extend snaps for guys that don't get snaps. You cut snaps for your stars, and that's kind of how you do it, because every play in the NFL means something. So 1 or 2 snaps off for a player could mean your season.
Yeah, the players aren't going to tank. But then again, unless Jerry goes ahead and fires McCarthy, why is McCarthy doing that? Why is he putting other guys in to make him lose and look worse? Because unless he just plans on retiring after this, but still he doesn't.
You have a lot of guys, they play that really strategically, as this guy has soreness, this guy's this, we're going to set him out today. You'll see that if a team is not going to competitively go out. You'll start to see
Mike McCarthy makes those decisions. Why would Mike do that? Is what I'm saying.
Does he make those decisions?
I can. Sure. I understand as a franchise why the Cowboys want to tank, but from the coaching staff, they're not going to be there. Why would they care?
Unless
They would
Jerry
rather
is guaranteed that they're coming back, that he's going to keep them.
There's no way
that he believes in them.
There's no way. I think it was atrocious.
To me,
that
there's
he
no
came back
way that
this
he's
year.
still here.
I can't believe he came back this year.
And then the way this season's gone, even with Dak, and Jerry will say, look, with Dak we sucked. With Dak we won 3 games. So why is McCarthy still here? If you say, like, if Jerry has those comments, I mean, the Cowboys
have
always been attacked.
He's going to say injuries. Micah Parsons was out. D-Law was out.
You didn't assemble a good team if one player
Yeah.
is going to completely change whether your season's
You were getting
outside of your
your asses kicked. And then look at the Saints kicking your ass. And the Saints haven't won a game, or maybe they just won a game, but they fire there. Like, the team that
we lost to got rid of their coach.
And maybe that's a Carolina effect. They'll play Carolina. Maybe that's when Mike loses a job if they lose to them. But I see only 2 possible wins left, and that's against the Giants and the Panthers. But I don't know, with Cooper Rush, maybe those teams beat the Cowboys.
If we saw what we saw this past week, I don't see them winning another game, and I'm okay with it at this point.
Yeah.
You want real change from Jerry though? Quit buying tickets.
Yeah.
Quit going to that stadium. Don't sell out. Don't fill up the stadium.
And that's
even if you have tickets, don't fill up the stadium. Don't go to the game.
Yeah.
Don't give Jerry the satisfaction of having a full house.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Tyson fight later, but he was there promoting that.
Oh, that's
as well.
And that's the issue is Jerry cares more about those things,
and that's fine. Let him go do that, but
then he needs to step out of football operations.
Yeah, someone else needs to take over. He needs to come in and have your meeting, see what's happening, and then walk out and do other marketing things. All right,
but Jake Paul with more wins than the Cowboys in that stadium this season.
They haven't won since last regular season. I mean, they've been blown out every single game they've played there, dating back to when they played the Packers there last year. And don't give me the bull crap about they only lost to Baltimore by 1 score. All right, jump into some college football. We have 3 Texas teams pushing for the playoffs, legit chances too. Number 3, Texas at Arkansas. That's going to be an interesting game because Texas has played Arkansas obviously every few years, but now it's one of those old rivalry games that me and you really, I don't think, got the chance to enjoy from the old Southwest Conference. And I think Arkansas has been down. They've been up a lot, but down. It's kind of been back and forth. And, they only, I don't know how often Texas and Arkansas probably play, every 5 years or something like that. So, and Arkansas is pretty good. They're not ranked, but they're a pretty good team this year. They took down Tennessee. Isn't that who they took down? Arkansas took down Tennessee. So, upset alert there in Arkansas. I think that Razorback crowd is going to be ridiculous because we know Arkansas hates Texas. I don't know at Texas. It's kind of been a while since Arkansas has been good and competing against Texas. SMU, number 14, SMU, first place in the ACC. Only undefeated. Well, I guess Miami's undefeated in the ACC. They lost a non-conference game, but SMU controlling their own destiny, really.
Yeah.
They might face off against Miami in the ACC championship game. Louisville's up there, who they've already beat. You still have Pitt, who SMU's already beat. They're playing Boston College. They're sitting just outside. I think they were the second team out on this week's college football playoff rankings. Still need to show more, I guess. And then, I mean, honestly, ACC, they have a chance. If they can win the ACC, they get that bye.
Automatic bid.
They get a bye.
Yeah.
I think if they can win out and they lose in the ACC championship, I think they might still get a bye. I mean, get a bid.
A bid, yeah.
Because they're 14th now. They're almost in there. And then if they win out and then lose a competitive game to Miami, I don't think you drop them out. And then 15, Texas A&M hosting New Mexico State. Just a few spots out of the playoffs, and then they still have to run through Texas, so they can, they have their opportunity. I think they control their own destiny too for the playoffs. They went out. How would you not put them in the playoff?
Yeah.
Because you would have to at some point, unless Texas falls off a cliff before then, and Texas is ranked like 20 something by the time they play them. You have a top 10 Texas team if A&M can beat them. A&M winning out, I assume, puts them in the SEC championship. You can win or a close loss there. And, I think those 3 teams have very, I think SMU, it's like in the 30 percentile chance, and A&M, 40 percentile, somewhere around there. But you have the opportunities because you're playing well. And then obviously with Texas and Texas A&M, you have that path because you're playing good teams. You're playing each other. SEC championship, and the SMU has a chance. to win out and possibly play Miami. So with only 2 spots to move up to be in that playoff. Well,
Yeah.
I say that it's not the top 12 teams, but they're going to be ranked that just sitting on the outside. They have a really good chance.
It would have to be a win out situation and beat Texas for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's really the
Well,
only.
I think if Texas A&M loses another SEC game, I don't know that eliminates them from the SEC championship, because I had misspoke last show, and there's no divisions now. You're right. Texas and Texas A&M could play, which I think's dumb. Not that's dumb, but there's no like why? How do you have an 18-team conference and not have divisions? Then you have teams possibly that can oust you from the SEC just for tiebreakers that you don't even play.
Yeah.
But whatever. That I digress. But yeah, you could have, if both Texas A&M and Texas win out and then till their game, and then whoever has the worst SEC, I think they both are one loss in the SEC, so they could play in the SEC champion. Now that Georgia lost, so Georgia's right there. Georgia needs to get beat one more time, but they're right there in the driver's
seat. It gets
seat.
Interesting when they play each other. That's what's going to be interesting.
And how about, like, I understand how the playoff rankings work to an extent, where you have the top 4 bye weeks are the highest ranked conference champions. They're assuming who the conference champions are, but Georgia got ousted out of the playoff. That was so crazy. I know they got their butts kicked, but Ole Miss is a pretty good team, and it's just weird. Like, I know how it works. I know how, like, they're saying these are not the rankings. These are not the top 4 teams. Although that's how number 3 Texas is based on. That's what they're going into. But Georgia falling to 14 is kind of ridiculous. Can you imagine Georgia not getting? I think they win out, they'll be in the SEC championship. There's no way you can keep them out of the playoff. But
they get a tough feat today against Tennessee.
Yeah, Georgia, Tennessee. Let me scroll down to that one. That's going to be, I mean, for both Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia loses, that I don't know. Georgia will have to hope for Texas A&M, Tennessee. They have to hope for some people to lose, because Georgia's key to getting in to the playoffs, or any of these teams, really, the SEC, to really guarantee a spot, is to make it to the SEC championship. I know Tennessee's good and they're highly ranked, but you lose, that drops you, depending on how you lose, out another 12 now, 15, something like that. Now you have to work your way back in, but you're probably not making the conference championship with 2 losses, depending on how all that pans out. They lost 28-10 to Ole Miss. And Utah at 17, Colorado. So Colorado, I think, kind of controls their own destiny too, they're ranked 17. Let's just say playoff. They win a Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
The only, this wasn't, we didn't think it would be this much, this way early in the season, but they're playing Utah. We thought Utah was going to be favored here. Oklahoma State, we thought was going to, but they're not good. So you have Colorado playing now an easier schedule with Utah now, and then Oklahoma State later in the season. You lost to Kansas State, who might be somebody you play in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
You still have BYU's undefeated, although we saw that might be a fraudulent undefeated team, barely beating Utah, and really didn't beat them. They got a holding penalty from the refs that it wasn't egregious, but it was like, come on. But it kept the drive going. They ended up going down. They did go down, finish the drive, and score. But Colorado, I know a lot of people would hate that. Dion, and maybe that thrusts Dion. He says he's not leaving, but who knows? I mean, Florida State, his alma mater, not doing so good.
I think that's the only place you really see him going.
Yeah, I know people want him to go to
NFL
Cowboys,
stuff.
but I don't think Jerry would let him go to the Giants are saying,
I don't know.
Screw it. They're going to fire there. They need a new quarterback. Draft Shedeur Sanders.
If the funding is there and Dion is continuing to get paid what they agreed upon paying him, for me, I think it's job unfinished. I think if the money would have been there and he was getting paid, like I could see him staying at Jackson State when he was there.
Yeah.
He turned that program around.
You think it's more about the money than...
He still had unfinished business to do. Well, he didn't have the backing. They didn't have the backing to fund what he wanted to do. And I think they're finding that in Colorado.
I guess you get enough funding in NIL era, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's just the backing of the school for facilities and things like they're doubling down on it. They're betting on themselves. I think it would be a huge loss for Colorado if Deion leaves. I think it's so much that's been built up, and I'm not even sure.
Forget all the hype. You go from a 1 or 2 win team to 2 years later, you're ranked 17. You have a legit shot at winning the Big 12, and possibly making the playoffs. That's ridiculous. If you, but I not necessarily a Deion fan. I mean, I think it's cool that we're talking about Colorado so much on this podcast because of that.
I mean, definitely there would be more money at Florida State and his alma mater. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that play well there.
And they're the exact opposite. They were just trying to make the playoff last year, and now they've won 1 game.
Yeah.
I think he would have. I mean, I think there were rumors of him going to Texas A&M, but I think Texas A&M is probably fine with their coach right now. But
yeah, I think they're good.
Yeah, they had a debate on another podcast, like, well, A&M could pay him more than Florida State. I'm like, what? A&M? I don't understand. Like, Florida State's probably going to need a new coach. It's his alma mater. That's why A&M's doing fine. I don't think they're firing their coach.
No.
All right, let's jump into this Mike Tyson versus Paul fight. You stayed up to watch it. We both thought very underwhelming. And, I was wrong. I thought it's Mike Tyson. But time is undefeated. Age is undefeated. He just didn't. I thought he looked, and I understand you can only have so much endurance. I thought he needs to win quickly if he goes the distance outside of it being scripted, which honestly I'm like, no one's going to knock anybody out. It's going to go the distance. Mike's going to win, split decision. That's how they want it to go. But he came out fast. He got a couple good punches, but ever since that second round, he just was stumbling along. I'm surprised he didn't get knocked out at this point.
Yeah, his age definitely showed. You didn't see as much of that when in the clips you would see of him training and in press conferences. He seemed to move around okay. It seemed like after that first round, he really came out hot. That he was not moving around well after that. I mean, he looked like an old shuffling grandpa. And
yeah, he's just kind of standing away, waiting till the end of the round to go for his shots.
We talked about it early this morning that before the show that it looked like Paul had an opportunity to knock him out a couple times, and he didn't.
He held back.
I think, and he was asked after, hey, were you trying to knock him out? And he kind of danced around that, wouldn't clearly answer it. I think he definitely had opportunities.
Yeah.
I think he didn't take those. I think it was a respect thing. You can say, well, it was fixed. It was
pre-match.
And you mentioned maybe they had a contractual thing of, hey, we're not going for knockouts here. Let's go the distance on this thing. I think he had opportunities, but I don't know that it was anything other than a respect that he wasn't going to embarrass the man on national TV and worldwide TV, right?
And I think we've seen it. Like, I haven't followed boxing that close very often, but I think from the Mayweather-McGregor fight is when I kind of noticed it, where the pre-match festivities are just a joke. They're going at each other. It's all fake. It's all like, hey, we're hyping this up now, which I get. That's the point of doing the pregame, pre-match festivities. And we saw it. He steps on his foot. He smacks him. I'm like, Jake Paul knew the smack was coming. Somebody probably told Mike Tyson to do it. Or they said, hey, go make fireworks. Go do something. And then he said the whole time, hey, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to knock his ass out. I'm going to do this. And then afterwards, they're hugging. I mean, they're all good.
Was the best hit that Tyson got in.
I know. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I think he landed
18
punch it. Like, so we'll get to it in a minute, because I think the only reason the internet's not exploding about how bad Mike Tyson was because how bad Netflix was. So I think it was the 5th or 6th round, and it kicks me out, as it's been doing. So I get back into it. I knew I was behind, not because I was rewinding. Like, you told me y'all were way ahead. So I click back on there. Finally, I get back on after about 30 seconds. Jake Paul won. I'm like, oh, he knocked his ass out. But no, it just finally caught up, and it was a decision. So I didn't get to see. I I saw before they said he got 18 punches. I'm like, oh yeah, well that's it. 18 punches. At sixth round, it's over. That's all. No, in 8 rounds, 10 rounds, 10 rounds. I thought it was 8 rounds. So I did 8, 10. Okay, but 2-minute rounds, which is ridiculous that they're going. Like,
no, maybe it was 8. You know, maybe
8
you're
2-minute
right.
rounds.
Right.
Normally it's like 10 3-minute rounds. But I'm like 8 rounds, 18 lands. I'm like, he didn't even average like 2.1, 2.2 a round, and I think he got 4 in that first round. He went at him early on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was underwhelming. I'm glad I didn't have to pay for it. I paid for Netflix.
He only threw 97 punches to Jake Paul's.
One for every 9, so he made like less than 10%.
Jake Paul threw almost 300. It was like 3 times.
Which you can kind of guess. Like, okay, is he going to like 18?
But he also landed, I can't remember now, landed 60 something.
But if you told me he was going to land 6 times as many punches, I'm like, okay, probably. He's probably throwing 10 times as many punches.
Yeah.
Just because, which he ended up throwing 20 times, right? Almost 20 times as many. You think, well, he's 27, he's 58. I get that, but man, yeah, it was very. I'm glad I know I pay for Netflix, but I didn't pay for Netflix for that. So I didn't. To me, it was free. I didn't have to pay. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't think the streaming would have been that bad if you pay the $70 for it.
Yeah.
Luckily, the fight before the female boxers, that was a really good fight. The one before that, Ramos, that was a really good fight. The first one, I didn't. It was kind of lame.
That was underwhelming.
It was underwhelming. So you did get some good boxing in.
Yeah.
That one, not so much, but the internet's exploding with a lot of hilarious memes. I'm sure you've seen these, but I haven't shown you which ones I picked, and you sent me one too. I added 2 there, so let me make sure I get my buttons right.
Man, that's about
promotion. Yeah, no reason to refresh your YouTube stream. That is what the graphic looks like. That's basically making fun of Netflix. It was in and out. I thought it was our Wi-Fi.
I did too.
But until I saw
was upset because I just upgraded my Wi-Fi this week.
Yeah.
For other reasons, just with upgrades, and I'm like, man, there's no way that it's been working great. My son's telling me on his video games he's pinging, whatever, really good, I guess. And I'm like, dude, there's no way that this is.
Yeah.
And then I was relieved when my wife told me that, so and so's having issues. So and so posted on Facebook that. I'm like, okay, it's not up. It's not
something to do with, I guess, everybody. I didn't watch the hot dog eating contest, so I don't know if which of course isn't going to have the ratings that this is having, but I don't know. They're supposed to have NFL games in Christmas, so we'll see.
Well, I mean, this is probably still a bigger event than that.
I assume it had to do with too many people on their server, I guess.
Yeah, I assume their servers couldn't.
I mean, we're not experts, but we did stream Friday Night Football. We have had issues, but nothing.
You see websites crash and things because the servers couldn't handle the traffic.
It's Netflix, though.
We had the same issues. I think they didn't prepare for it. I think they didn't realize how many people would actually.
You don't think that many people? I would think many people at any point is on Netflix. I guess it may depend when you're on that. So Netflix obviously has many servers. So if you're watching one thing and I'm watching a different thing on Netflix, might be on different servers, but this one in particular, I'm no expert on it. Next one. That was the one. Where's it at? Oh, you know what? I had to change things and it didn't change. I didn't hit the hotkeys. So I'll just do this manually. So Netflix quality right now is Mike Tyson. What was that game called?
Punch Out.
Yeah. Which ironically didn't happen last night. But yeah, basically that's about the graphics we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else Netflix freezing up? Mike Tyson, wondering. And then what was the deal? People were complaining. Like I saw, I guess it wasn't freezing up at the same time for everybody. So when they were interviewing Mike Tyson, he walks away in his little jock strap. Lots of people like it had to freeze on that spot. It didn't freeze on me for that spot, but
no, it didn't freeze on me for us either.
That's pretty. It's like what are you doing, Mike Tyson? And then you sent me this one. If I added it in there, it said I want to get in a time machine to go back to 1998 and try to convince people that in the year 2024 a near 6-year-old Mike Tyson would be fighting a kid from the Disney Channel over the World Wide Web via the company that rents DVDs via mail, broadcasted by Rosie Perez. That's
But then even this clip was in, like, I guess within another post, and it said the real loser here was Blockbuster
yeah.
for not buying Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah. Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix and turned them down. And I don't know that Netflix would have turned out to be this. No, I'm just used to dogs being down there. I'm just, I was wondering, why was there a dog in here? But with what Blockbuster was dealing with, there's no, Netflix wasn't streaming at the time.
Yeah.
But let's see what our time is. Our time is good. Let's jump to this. Is that right? So, jumps to some baseball. We talked about the Tampa Bay Rays, hurricane destroying the roof on their stadium. Didn't know what was going to happen because they're like, hey, it's going to take a couple of years to fix this. So, we do know they're going to play their 2025 season at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, the Yankees. Is it like their spring training? I don't know the spring training facility, but they play there a lot of games.
Like it's owned by the Yankees.
Yeah, it's owned by the Yankees. It's in Tampa. It says they could return to the Trop in 2026, assuming the city can get some sort of package together. Because now there's an issue with it's going to cost so much just to fix this, but they want a new stadium. And why would the city pay?
Maybe there's conspiracy that the Rays paid off to have a hurricane hit, destroy their ballpark, so they can get a new one. That I know this has been a big talk. Them proposing a new ballpark.
How do they get a hurricane to hit? No, don't comment. We know. Listen to. I'll give you a link for our other podcast if you want to talk about that stuff. But knowing the hurricane's coming, I don't know how their roof works. Go send some maintenance guys to clip off some stuff just so the hurricane destroys it. But I don't know.
You're sending prayers up for it should just be destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to move to Montreal.
If anybody has issues, I've been dealing with roof issues and insurance at my house. I can only imagine what it's going to take for them. It took me 14 months. I can only imagine what that disaster is going to take.
And I don't know, couldn't you just play without the roof? I mean, I know there's Florida, a lot of rain.
Structural issues they probably are going to have to look into, which is where the time's going to take.
Yeah.
In scheduling, you have to get cranes. Yeah, I think and then funding for that. I mean, this stadium may sit for quite a while till they can figure out the funding and insurance and whatever they're going to have to go through here before they can even touch it. They can't just go yank it down now.
Yeah. So, do they play another game in that stadium?
I would almost see them relocate before they would play another game in that stadium.
I thought they were going to, the writing was on the wall that they were going to go to Montreal because it was a couple of years ago. They said they were going to split season. I don't know why don't they just go ahead and do that now? But
bring back the Expos.
And Montreal just got bad news that they're not even on the short list of teams. So the MLB's probably going to expand 2 more teams. I know Charlotte and Nashville are kind of up there. Vegas was up there, but they're going to get their team. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Montreal, they don't want to give them a team. Poor Canadians, because they say Quebec City is on the short list to get a hockey team now. So it's like that's poor that region of Canada, Quebec City, Montreal. I mean, I'm from Texas,
I feel like
I know they're close.
Dollar wise, if you're looking at money, going back to Montreal and re-upping the Expos would be a very money making. All over the world, I think people would.
Yeah, just because I still see Expos hats and stuff, which is kind of weird because I went back and looked at their records. They sucked.
They were terrible
the entire time.
They weren't popular. It wasn't popular when they were playing.
Was it Vladimir? Vladimir.
Vladdy was there.
He was there. You had Randy Johnson.
I have some Randy Johnson baseball cards.
You have all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I've seen memes okay, this is what we're gonna do, Randy. We're gonna trade you. I don't know who they got, but he said we're going to trade you for this guy, and then you're going to go win a bunch of Cy Youngs and throw no hitters, and that's what we're going to do. So Montreal didn't obviously in that situation. When you relocate teams, it's not. I said the city's not behind. That's sometimes what it is. It's stadiums, but I think it's just normally poorly run organizations where just get them in a city who really wants a team. Mm-hmm. While they figure it out, they can get it figured out. And I think that's something similar. You're just going to get bang for your buck for nostalgia purposes. I think at some point you put a team back in St. Louis. I mean, you can't call them the Rams. That's why I think that the Chargers and Rams screwed this up because they should have changed but rebranded so you could redo the San Diego Chargers or the St. Louis Rams, even though I know Los Angeles originally had them. Funny thing is, the Yankees, in rival team to the Rays, or in division rival to the Rays, they're going to gain around $15 million in additional revenue this season for that. Not that $15 million moves it, but there is a certain Japanese pitcher coming that this might help for. I don't know if the Rays are in, but the Yankees definitely want him, so that kind of helps for that. But now we have 2 MLB teams this season, for the next couple of seasons, maybe, playing in minor league stadiums. Because you have the A's, which is weird. We may talk about that in a future episode of Sports Biz, about the A's moving to Sacramento for a couple of years until they move to... Like, the Vegas thing isn't even finalized. Yeah. Like, they've been approved by MLB, but there's stadium renderings that, like, we don't... What if they just move right back to Oakland? That might be... Oakland might be desperate. Stay in Sacramento. I mean... I think they'll sell out that park for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know if Sacramento, if you could get a ballpark there or not.
I mean, it's not too... It's a couple hours away from, like, San Francisco. It's a different market, but I mean...
Yeah, I just don't know if the money in that in Sacramento is...
It's not big enough. I mean, you just have the one professional team, and they have a really good following for the minor league team that plays in the stadium. I don't even know how that works with the major and minor league team playing in a stadium. There's reasons there's no MLB teams that share stadiums.
Yeah.
Because they play so many damn games. But I mean, that stadium's like, I think 14,000. Like, it's a big. We have the local Cleveland Railroaders team here. Their stadium's like 3,000 or 2,500. But it's like a larger minor league stadium, and I'm sure they'll sell out. Like, I know in Oakland they couldn't sell in that many tickets most games.
It's gonna be an interesting game to watch. Maybe more fun game to watch in such a small venue.
Yeah, kind of like the Field of Dreams game that they play, which I'll get to at a different time. That's not the Field of Dreams stadium. They built a minor league stadium by the Field of Dreams. I was led to believe they're playing on the Field of Dream, adding seats. Like,
but that field's really small. It's not a regulation size.
I mean, then don't do it. Play a spring training or exhibition
Little League
game.
Kids.
Yeah, they do play there. I get it.
With light poles in the middle of the outfield.
Minute Maid Park, right? That's kind of what they do there. All right, guys, we're out of time for today. Thank you for listening to this episode, watching it, whatever, however you're doing it. With Tony, I'm Ashton. See you guys later.